record and I'm going to get, oops, this and presentation. All right. And I think, all right, give me just a second and then I will get started. You share. I want to make sure. All right. All right, so welcome everyone to Activate Self-Love, Awaken Your Libido. My name is April Monica, and I just want to take a second to introduce myself. So I am a sex and love coach. I work with women exclusively. I'm very passionate about female sexuality. And the reason why is you'll see here on this picture, this is a picture of me and my husband. And my husband's amazing. He's a total beast and he treats me like a queen. And we've been married for almost 8 years now. And when we first were dating and we got married, like sex, it came so easy and we were having all of the sex like all over the place. And it was just so much fun. And a couple years into our relationship, I found myself starting to like make up excuses, like my head hurts or I just didn't want to have it. And then I started noticing it too, that he was liking our sexual experiences more than I was. And it was making me resent him because in my head, I was like, why doesn't he do this? And maybe if he just did this. And it got to the point where like I just didn't want to have sex anymore. And that was really hard for me. In fact, it gave me a lot of shame. Like I spent tons of time on Google, like, where's my libido? What is wrong with me? I started taking different like aphrodisiacs, different herbs, like maca, and it would temporarily make me feel a certain way, but it would never work. And then I would take it so much that it would make me sick and my stomach would hurt. And I was listening to this podcast and I ended up hiring a sex coach. And she taught me that I should start having sex every single day. And the more I have sex, the more I'm going to want sex. And that was so bad for me. In fact, that like actually took the little like desire I had and made it completely go away. And so I ended up working one on one with another sex coach. And it was a really slow process for me, and I had to unlearn all these things. And I'll get more into that, during this workshop. But what happened is when I was going through that, it was super hard for me, for one, because I wasn't having sex and I wanted to, and I just wanted to want to have sex. And I felt bad telling my husband that I didn't want to have sex. So then I found myself just like doing it and then resenting him for it and all the things. But also, I remember like trying to like talk to my girlfriends about it. And everyone was like, oh, I'm fine. In that area, we're fine. And everyone was so like hush hush, didn't want to open up about it. So I ended up getting this sex coach and having this like complete sexual awakening and taking all these courses and like becoming obsessed with different teachings and different styles of like, orgasms and whatever. And the more that I started vocalizing, like, hey, this was really hard for me, and this is where I'm at now, and I was just brutally honest, the more women would start opening up to me and being like, hey, I'm struggling too. Like, I'm having a hard time. And I realized it wasn't just me. There's women all over the place who were having just as hard of time as I am, if not harder. And so I realized there was a need for this. And I became so passionate about it. And I started like giving my friends all this free advice and watching them like step into just a better place in their sex life and their sexuality. And I was like, this is amazing. And so, long story short, I got laid off from corporate America and I was like, I never want to go back and have like a 9 to 5 again. And then the pandemic hit and I came across this program and I became a certified sex, love, and relationship coach. And so now I've been doing this work for about 2.5 years, and I have come to understand that there is a secret ingredient to awakening your sexuality, and it is love. Love is the highest frequency, and it has the ability to heal. And so that's what brings all of us here tonight. Is I had a bad experience. I didn't have good sex for a long time. I thought I was broken. I hired two sex coaches. One actually helped me heal, And everything became so amazing that I wanted to do this for a living and give it to as many women as I could possible because it's part of our power, and we've been taught um to disown our sexuality and to have shame for it. And it really is a part of who we are. And when we do tap into our sexual selves, it is a feeling of strength and power. And I really feel that the more women who can be exposed to this work and experience this stuff, the more that we're going to watch women elevate like all over the world. And so it's incredible. So spread the word. Also, I have a podcast called Sexual Illumination. I have over 100 episodes where I give tons of free sex advice. So make sure you check it out. And if you forget the name of it, just go to my website, aprilmonica.com. You'll see a link there. So in tonight's workshop, what I will be covering is teachings on how to love yourself and awaken your libido. I am going to give you a ton of information that's going to help you ease your mind on your sexual struggles if you're experiencing them. I'm going to go over some of the biggest libido killers so you know what not to do to keep you going. And I'm going to teach you the real truth about your libido. There is a part of this workshop that was such a game changer for me. So I'm really excited that you're here and I get to teach it to you. I'm going to give you advice on what you should be doing or what you could be doing from here. You shouldn't have to do anything, but it's all up to you. So if this is, exciting for you and you like what you get, you're going to get tons of advice. We're going to do a self-love check-in. So a little bit of an embodiment practice. I'm going to give you 4 steps to activate your libido. And then at the end of this program, I'm also going to give you next steps if you want to take this work deeper with me. And so, yes, you guys are the first to hear. I'm announcing something that I am launching a very affordable and amazing course for you. I'll get that or to that at the end of this workshop. And just know that if you are here, you don't have to buy it, although you can because it's amazing, but stick with this workshop anyways, because I'm going to give you so much information that you're going to be able to take this information and you're going to experience a mindset shift. And sometimes just that in itself can help take your sex life from meh to mind blowing. So while we're all here, before we go any farther, let's just take a second to sink into our bodies and to find the love within us. So right now, what I want you to do is just take a deep breath and gently close your eyes. Allow your eyelids to rest on your cheeks. And just start breathing in and out of your entire body slowly, letting yourself notice whatever it is that you're sitting on or laying on, how it's supporting you. Maybe how your back feels, how your butt feels, your feet being supported on the floor, the chair. And just breathing for a moment. Noticing if you have any areas of tension or tightness in your body and allowing your breath to just travel there and loosen it up. So right now in this relaxed state, I want you to start thinking about someone or something or a place or even a pet, something that you love so much. And just in your mind's eye, letting yourself see this person, place, thing, or pet, maybe like experiencing a memory or remembering a memory, something where this thing that you feel love for, where you can just kind of feel that. And noticing where this lives in your body. Where is this love that you're finding, and allowing your breath to drop here and just expand the sensation of love with every inhale. And then with every exhale in your mind's eye, you can visualize all that love like staying within you, seeping into your blood and your bones and your cells. And just taking place where this love lives, and know that whether it's in the rest of this workshop or out there in life, or when it comes to dealing with sex or anything, you can always find that love inside of you. That love exists, it's here, it's always here. So just taking note where that is. So, what I want you to think about for this workshop is, what if your sexuality was a relationship to explore rather than something to fix? Now, obviously, I'm not here talking with every single one of you who showed up, but what I can say from my own experience and from working with women is that um, a lot of women are thinking something is wrong with them, and they're coming to me because they want to fix it. Okay, so I just want you to like open your mind a little bit more and just kind of think of it a little bit differently. What if it wasn't anything to fix and it's just a relationship to explore? How would you treat it? How would you handle it? And how would you feel about it if it wasn't working the way you wanted it to? So in this program, I use the words, both two different words, yoni and pussy. And what yoni is, it's a Sanskrit word for pussy, and pussy is the word for pussy in the English language, kind of. It's slang. But the reason why I use these words instead of the word vagina is because we've all been taught that like it's called a vagina, right? And really, your vagina is just your vaginal canal. It doesn't, that doesn't include the labia or the clitoris, none of it. It's just the vaginal canal. And so when I use the word yoni or pussy, it's because I'm talking about the entire thing, all the parts. The only way to say that in the English language would be female genitalia. And that is not sexy at all. It doesn't make me feel beautiful or like a goddess. It makes me feel like a weird science something that I shouldn't be doing. And just take note on that, that in the English language, there is not a word that describes yoni or pussy unless it's slang or we're using a Sanskrit word. And language is really important. And when you think about the shame that a lot of women have carried over female sexuality, like, and it's rampant, it's in our culture, and we don't even have a name for a yoni. Like, there's a lot that goes into that. So, something to think about. So, all of you are in the right place if you can answer yes to any of these. You feel like you've lost your libido, and I will give you reasons why to understand that you have not lost your libido. But if you feel like you've lost your libido, you are in the right place. If you've ever felt like you were broken, you are in the right place. If you've ever experienced pain or numbness in sex, you are in the right place. If you've ever gone out of your way to please your partner and put your desires on the back burner, you are in the right place. So this happens a lot. I hear this a lot and I understand it because I've been there too. But this is when you are with your partner and maybe you're not maybe you're not having good sex. Maybe it hurts. Maybe you feel nothing. Maybe you're uncomfortable, but like you think that they're having such a good time, or you're afraid to tell them because you're afraid of hurting their feelings or making them feel like they're not, as good as they're hoping to be. So you just sit there and you take it, and you don't use your voice and make it so it's pleasurable for you. So if you've ever been that person, you're in the right place. And you are also in the right place if you've had the experience of attracting lovers who didn't honor your body. So this work is so amazing for women who are, in partnerships, but it also is really, truly beautiful for women who are single as well. And I've worked with a lot of single women, and I love it because I see something happen. They elevate when we like attracts like, right? And so if there's a part of you that's lacking self-love, or you have shame over your sexuality or your body, and that's how you feel, it's very possible you will attract someone who is on the same page that you feel about yourself and as they will feel about you. So when you do this work and you learn to like elevate, then you naturally call in, high quality lovers as well. And then you are also in the right place if you feel like sex isn't that important. Um, take it or leave it. Like, we'll see what's on Netflix. Maybe I want to do that more. Or you're in a committed relationship with someone and you think, like, oh, our relationship is so great, but we don't have sex. I'm here to tell you that sex, good sex, okay, not dull, unfulfilling sex, but like amazing sex is actually really, really important for your relationship. It brings you together, creates intimacy, and it also teaches you the skills of communication. So, things I want you to know: you have a libido, I promise. And it is 100% possible for you to experience pleasure in sex, even if it hurts or even if it's numb right now. Even if you never have sex or you've only experienced shitty sex, I promise you, your body is built for this and you just haven't been taught. And that's something to kind of think about. Like when we went to school and we were taught about sex or church or your parents, it was most likely all just like the fear of sex, like how not to get pregnant, how not to die of AIDS, how, not to have an STI. And there was just a lot of fear. And then, so anyways, with that said, no one ever really taught us about pleasure. And I'm here to teach you about pleasure. Sex is a skill and it's something that we can all get better at, and there's always another level to go. So, like, even for me as a sex coach who's learned to be multi orgasmic and have these amazing experiences, there's still another level to go. A lot of the times, and I totally get this because, again, I was once this woman who just wanted to have good sex, right? And, um, thinking to myself, like, it should be natural. And a lot of people will say that to me, like, I don't understand why I have to work for it. And they feel bad, like something's wrong with them and they're not doing something right. But sex is a skill and we can get better at it. And just to kind of like put you at ease about it, like, think about being healthy. Okay, being healthy, that's at our natural state. That's something that we should do. It's very natural, but we do have to work for it. And sometimes we actually have to get help for it, whether it's like hiring a trainer or someone to teach us about nutrition or a coach to keep us motivated so we stay on track. It's all possible. It's natural for us to be healthy, but we still have to work at it. And it can be this, it's the same thing for your sex life. I want you to know that the breasts that you have are perfect and they are a gateway to your orgasm. So I don't know how you currently feel about your breasts, but I know that this is a topic and we've been taught like they're supposed to look like this. And if they don't, and like if they're too small or they're too big or one's bigger than the other, like we're totally screwed, right? But every single one of you has a set of breasts that have all these nerve endings. And whether you feel amazing in your breasts right now, I'm telling you, they are perfect. They all have nerve endings that can be woken up, and they are a gateway to your orgasmic pleasure. So if you ever just kind of like play with your boobs or play with your nipples a little bit, you can start feeling like your yoni fluttering. It's really cool. Your body is beautiful. I know that this can be hard to wrap around, but basically, living in this culture, we have been thrown beauty image after beauty image after beauty image that basically all look the same. And if we don't relate to the beauty image that's being thrown to us, then we start to reject our own beauty. And this is happening everywhere, all over the place. Your body is beautiful. I promise you that. And your yoni is orgasmic. So many people will be like, well, I can only have like a clitoral orgasm. I can't have a G spot or a cervical orgasm, or I don't have orgasms in sex. It's only in foreplay, yada, yada, yada. I just want you to know your yoni is orgasmic. She is perfectly capable of having orgasms inside of her. And I can teach you how here in a little bit. So, I am going to give you now the best lesson that I have ever learned about understanding my libido. So, starting first with the libido killers. Okay, these are the things, these are like the top things that I see over and over that just kill it. So, one is like feeling pressured to have sex or feeling like sex is expected. Like, I know that, okay, so let me just kind of like say this. So like, let's just say that my husband came up to me and was like, want to have sex? Most likely my entire body is going to contract. Like, no, I don't, is going to be my response. Or I know that, it's really hard, like when you're trying to like get in the mood and like you just want to allow yourself some time for your body to open up, but then you don't want to start making out with your lover because you're afraid that they're just gonna like think that sex is expected. When we think that sex is expected, or it's an obligation of ours, that can be a major libido killer. Sometimes, not all the time, because my goal is always for my clients to have the most amazing sex. But there have been times where people come to me and they're like, I am not having good sex and my body is freezing. Like I'm in a state of freeze. And before, like, as soon as we start making out, or I know that, my partner wants to have sex, my entire body goes into a freeze. And so, what I advise at this point is stop having sex. Like, give yourself 30 days, a week, whatever it is. Talk to your partner about this, about how you want to retrain your nervous system and your body and your mind, how you respond to it, and then play with sexual energy without having the expectation of sex would be a really good way to get over this, because eventually at some point your body is going to want it, and that's when you can start having it again. But having sex before your body is ready is the biggest libido killer, which I'm going to get into now. So, if you've had a past of bad sex or mediocre sex where you aren't experiencing pleasure, maybe it's numbness, maybe it's pain, maybe it's just very, like, I don't know, comparable to a back massage, right? And it's not that great. Like, you're not going to be that ready for it, especially if it's bad. You're going to start rejecting it. Your body is not going to want it. And so, having, bad sex is definitely a libido killer. And so that's why we don't want to settle for bad sex, and why we want to learn these things, for like that you guys are showing up here for, to have these tools to make it better for you, because the more you like sex, the more you're going to want it. It's actually a libido booster. And then the other libido killer I see is stress. So feeling like something is really wrong with you. And what happens too is when you feel like something's wrong with you, that stresses you out, right? That feeling of like, I'm just trying to fix this. And when that happens, you're actually, producing cortisol in your body, and that is the biggest libido killer. Some people, I guess, I mean, everyone's different. There are some people who do get a heightened libido during stress, but most people, it just squashes it right there. And then conditioning is a huge libido killer. So this means, like, this is what we picked up around us, like what's been taught. Someone could have sat us down and taught us something. We could have learned things by just seeing examples out there. Let me just think of something to kind of explain it to you. So conditioning would be, growing up in the church and in this like virginal culture where like the virgin's glorified, and like everyone should be pure and no one should have sex before they're married. And if you do, you're deemed as bad. And like you might grow up as an adult and in your head, you're thinking like, it's okay for me to have sex. But then you're struggling and you come work with me and we do this kind of work, and we, find out, we peel off the layers and we go back in time and realize that there's this part of you that's been conditioned to believe that you are dirty if you are having sex. And so now it's back in your subconscious brain and your psyche, right? And you're freezing because of it. That would be an example of conditioning. So as women, we've experienced so much conditioning. I mean, it's everywhere. It's in our culture, it's in the movies, it's talked about, it's at school, it's, women like are we're conditioned basically to say no to sex, and that if we do anything sexual, we're like this dirty slut. And even though we might know as adults that's not real, that's in our psyches. So that's something that we want to release. So understanding your libido. Now, this right here, this is Emily Nagoski, is I believe is how you say her name. She is a sex educator and researcher, and this woman is amazing. She wrote this book called Come As You Are. And there is some information in this book that changed my life, and I'm going to explain it to you. So, according to Emily and the research she's done, there are 3 different types of libido. So now spontaneous desire is the first type, and this is what we all think our libido should be, right? This is where, arousal is activated spontaneously. So maybe you're like driving in the car and you all of a sudden think of sex and you feel your body like tingling and like your libido is amping up and you feel that sexual energy. Or maybe you walk by a person that you consider to be like super sexy. Or, in the case, like when I said, if my husband comes and asks me for sex, if I had spontaneous desire, like it would be that easy for me, right? So it starts in your head and then your body lights up. And like I said, this is what is portrayed to us, that this is the only type of libido. So it's in movies, it's what we think. We're conditioned to think that we're just supposed to like be turned on, that it's the switch that we can turn on and off. And so when my guess is the majority of women showing up today do not have spontaneous desire. Otherwise, you wouldn't be looking for your libido, right? And so, yeah, that's spontaneous desire. Okay. And then there's responsive desire. So this is what I really, really resonate with. And what responsive desire is, it's like a turn on and a result of like a touch or closeness or some sort of intimacy, right? So going back to like, examples of my husband. So if he came and asked for sex, no, my body's contracted, like absolutely not. And it makes me crabby that you even asked. If he comes up to me and he like looks me in the eye and maybe like just goes like this and talks to me and maybe, like touches my shoulder a little bit and it feels good. It's like that signal's going to my brain, like, ooh, this feels good. And then my body opens up and like awakens. It's more of like this opening for sex. And so it's about like the physical sensations, like going up to your brain, saying yes, and then wanting it. So it starts in the body, goes to the brain, and the rest of yourself opens it. Now, responsive desire is very, very common. And a lot of us think that if we have responsive desire, that we've lost our libido because we don't feel it, but there's nothing wrong with us. Like there is nothing wrong with the fact that you might have to like engage. And this does not mean that you, how do I explain this? This doesn't mean that you start making out with someone and then they like go down your pants and start playing with your yoni and then you're going to be turned on. Like, no, you still have to warm up, like, start with your head and your body, maybe a massage, feeling close, feeling safe. The feeling of safety is like something that's really going to allow you to like open. And then the last one that she talks about is contextual. So this is all about like the context. This is your desire is highly impacted by the environment you're in, whether it's physical or environmental. So, physical or emotional. So that could be like, maybe you love it if everything is spotless and there's candles lit, like that turns you on. And maybe there's no way in how like you would ever get turned on if you hear the dog barking or a baby crying in the other room, or there's, you can see like a dirty basket of laundry, right? That could just totally kill it. It could also be like an emotional state. So maybe you get really turned on like when you're in like those like happy giddy states, right? Where it's just like fun and free and playful. And maybe you're totally turned off if there's stress at work, you can't do it. But you just kind of like play with it. So there's these 3 different types of libidos I just explained with you. And all of us can kind of maybe like sometimes relate to one over the other. And there's a little bit of all of them inside of us. And so if you can think of like things like, in your environment that would turn you off, like, can you eliminate that from your bedroom? Or going back to the example I just gave you of, stress, no, but happiness, giddiness, yes. So if you had a really stressful day and you would like to come home and have a nice intimate experience with your partner, then what could you do? Could you like watch Friends for a little bit, like something light that kind of gets you like, to chuckle, to shift the mood? These are all things like the more you know about yourself, the more you're going to be able to like find it. And a lot of the times people get frustrated when they find out, like they're excited that they find out about these different types of libido, because then it's like, oh, now I can relate with something. But then they're also sad because we've been so conditioned to believe that we should have spontaneous desire. And it's just not like that for everyone. However, the more you understand what type of context you need to have sex with, and the more that you allow yourself in the responsive, or to explore the responsive side of you, you're waking yourself up, you're having better sex, and the better sex you have, the more you're going to want it, and that also can create spontaneous desire. So, you really can have it all. That's what I'm trying to say. So I just want to take a second for you to just sit here for a moment and think about where you're at in your sex life, where you're at with the relationship of your libido, maybe where, what thing you think or what type of libido you fall into, and just like accept it. So just in your mind's eye, I don't know if you want to like hug yourself or something, but symbolically right now, can you just accept exactly where you are in this moments of time? And keep in mind that if you wished it was different and you wished it was a different way, again, you're just stressing yourself out. You're allowing cortisol to roll through your body, and that's just going to kill your libido. So the first step is to just accept it. And even like tuning into that love that you once felt and allowing yourself to feel that right now in this moment where you're just thinking about where it is that you are and loving yourself here in this moment of time. So, okay, but what if it doesn't feel good when I touch myself or when my partner touches me? Let's do it. Let's talk about pain and numbness and sex. There are so many reasons. Pain and numbness. It can have to do with like past traumas and traumas, right? Trauma too. There's just so many different kinds of trauma. There's some that seem so obvious, and then there's other traumas that, some people might be like, oh, that's not traumatic, but really anytime your nervous system gets shocked, right? That is registered as trauma in the body. So obviously there's severe trauma, but even things like, let's say you were slut shamed as a kid at school, or maybe it wasn't even you, it was your best friend, right? And so either you or you watched your best friend get like isolated from the crowd, right? They no longer belonged. If that shocked your nervous system, that registers in your body as trauma. And so trauma can, there's the 4 different things that happen in trauma. There's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So fawn means that you're being like super nice to the person who's giving you this traumatic event so you can like, get out of it. And in the bedroom, that definitely shows up as like going out of your way for someone else and not doing anything for yourself. Fight would be like, obviously like you're fighting someone off. When it comes to sexual relationships, a lot of the time fighting just means getting in a fight with your partner to avoid having sex. Flight is you flee, like you're not there. And so in sex, this could mean you might physically be having sex, but you're not in your body, like you're outside of your body, or you're just too busy to ever have sex. And then what did I say? Fight, flight, fun. Oh yeah, freeze. Freeze would just be like you can't move, like you're frozen, right? And if you feel frozen or any of these things, your pelvic floor, your vaginal canal will be really tight. And so that can cause pain. And again, all of this can be healed through just loving yourself, because love is the highest frequency. And anytime we experience any sort of trauma, we're experiencing this trauma because there is actually a lack of love or a perceived lack of love. And so love is a way to guide you into healing as well. Also pain and numbness can come from any of those things too for trauma. Like basically what happens is our primal brain, its main, it's a whole reason for existing is to keep us to survive. And so if it views something as a threat, it will cut us off from being able to experience it. And so if you are unable to have like amazing sex, it could definitely be from old traumas and traumas, and that can cause numbness. Numbness and pain can also happen and are very, very common because we are just having sex way too prematurely as women. We have seen every single movie out there where the guy and the girl, they make out and they have sex with them, they're like hot for each other, ripping each other's clothes off, and they're having penetrative sex right away. And then on screen, she appears to be having the best orgasm of her life. It shows up in movies and porn, in music videos, all of it, right? And so we think that we should be having sex within like, I don't know, 2 minutes of foreplay. And again, this goes back to like, we were never taught about pleasure. Our bodies as women who have yonis, it takes our body anywhere between 20 to 40 minutes to fully like be aroused. And so I want you to think about, if you were lucky enough to like have, a relationship in high school or junior high before you ever had sex, and you guys would just make out and it never got to sex. There was no pressure for a sex. You would just make out with them and you would feel that like sexual energy, that turn on rolling through your whole body where it felt like you were going to burst in such a good way. That's where I ultimately want you to be before you have penetrative sex. It's going to be so much more enjoyable. And when we have sex without being fully lubricated, fully warmed up, and fully open, it hurts, or we don't feel it. It's numb. And that's where it's coming from. So the best advice I have for you is to slow down, like enjoy it. It's like that quote, like it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Like bring that to the bedroom, because it's true. The more turned on you are, the better it is going to be. Another piece of advice I'd love to give you is change your definition of sex. This is part of like what got us in this entire mess, is we think that sex is a penis and a vagina, in and out, right? Well, there's so much more to that. And if we believe that like lesbians can have sex, then we have to broaden the definition of sex, because with that as the definition, then we're always rushing to have sex. But get that definition out of your head and exchange it for an exchange of sexual energy. So then you're not rushing for something. You allow yourself to be playful and to experience it and have all these, amazing sexual experiences. And my number one advice is to just love yourself. And this is loving everything about yourself, because naturally, when we really do love ourselves, we feel worthy and deserving of feeling or experiencing all the great things in life, and there's no exception in sex. So if you are lacking self-love, there might be this deep ingrained belief inside of you, well, like, I don't deserve it. It's for other people, or I might not be worthy of it. Or if you don't truly love yourself, it's really hard to stand up to someone and say, hey, I don't like what I'm doing. Like I desire to do this, and to just be so vulnerable, right? The more you love yourself, the more vulnerable you will be. And in that journey, you will be able to express yourself more. And the more you love yourself, then you go out of your way to like treat yourself with the greatest things, and pleasure is one of them. So when you truly love yourself, then you show up in the bedroom in a place more so of like, I'm going to nourish my body with orgasmic energy, and I'm going to go slow and do what I need to do, instead of trying to get in there and prove to yourself in some way, like, I'm going to have this orgasm, where you like clench your pelvic floor and you pound really hard, and like maybe you have an orgasm, but let's face it, when you come from that space, it's mediocre at best. When you show up in the bedroom and you love yourself, mind, body, soul, and you show up as this like goddess of love, and you take your time, that's when you have these like wildly radical sexual experiences that are available to every single one of us. So love is the number one ingredient needed to having amazing sex. I think I just like gave you all the reasons at the last slide. So we'll just keep going. And One thing too is that loving your sexuality, like doing this work from this perspective, taking time to not just be like, oh, I love how I'm funny and oh, I love that I have long legs, but like actually do work about loving your sexuality is to love yourself. Because as I've mentioned before, we have been taught to reject this part of ourselves. We have been taught to shame it, to disown it, to, all the things, to like not really carry it and love it. Because if we do, we're like bad. And this is a part of who we are. I mean, come on, like the human race wouldn't survive if people didn't have sex. And your sexual energy is life force energy. Like it has the ability to create life. Now, we don't have to use it to create life, but when we connect to it, it has the ability to give us life. Like standing in your sexuality is standing in your power. And when we deny that part of ourselves, we are denying a core, what is the word I want to say? Like, this is a part of who we are. And so we will never fully love ourselves if we are denying such a big part of who we are, is what I'm trying to say. So really, truly loving your sexuality is a radical act of self-love in itself. So right now I want to just do like a kind of like a pulse check on self-love and give you the opportunity to listen to your own body and just kind of see where you're at. This practice will just kind of allow you to know like, oh, maybe I should work on that. I could tell like when I was thinking and I felt a contraction inside of me, my body was telling me something and there is space for me to work on this. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to give you during this process in a second here, and I'll explain it as I go through it. But I'm going to give you this very simple yet very effective practice for kind of releasing some of the stuff that might come up for you. And I just want you to not overthink it and just go for it. And if you have questions after, we can do it. So right now, what I want you to do is in a second, I'm going to have you close your eyes. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to repeat a bunch of different affirmations for you. And what I want you to notice is when I give you these affirmations, do you feel an expansion in your body or a contraction? And if you start feeling contractions, it's okay. You're in the right place. We all have them. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just stuff. This is perfect for you to be here and to work on this. Actually, just notice where the contractions are and let them be here. And I'll walk you through a practice for them. So why don't you just allow yourself to sit back and get comfortable. This practice won't take too long, so don't worry about that. And just gently close your eyes again. And start letting yourself take really slow, long, steady, deep breaths. And as you do this, just reconnect to that love that we activated at the beginning of this class. Make your connection to it. And now here in just a moment, I'm going to start stating some affirmations. And as I speak them, I invite you to take my voice and think of it as if you were saying this to yourself. And as I say them, just notice, is your body expanding or contracting? I am worthy of feeling pleasure. I get to have sex for me and not just for my partner. I deserve to feel orgasmic bliss. My body is beautiful and I feel free while making love. I allow myself to feel pleasure. I am worthy of having better sex than I've ever experienced. It is okay for me to want more in sex. My breasts are beautiful and give me so much erotic sensation. My yoni is sacred. She is a portal to pleasure, and I understand her desires. So sitting still, keeping your eyes closed, just noticing, are there any contractions in your body? And just allowing them to be here right now, holding them, letting yourself witness this part of you. And just accepting that it's here. Can you find the part of you that can just accept this? And once you've accepted it, I invite you to tap into that love that you felt inside of yourself and allow that energy to fall into or to be infused in wherever you feel this contraction. And just let yourself hold yourself with your own internal love right now, here in this time. Maybe your body was contracting at different times where you didn't think it would, and that's okay. Just let yourself love yourself right now in this moment. Giving yourself just a moment more just to really love yourself in this state. And I'm going to walk you through a simple yet very effective practice for releasing this contraction. So noticing right now, how is it that you feel in your body where this like ick, this contraction showed up, and just in your head, ranking it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst. Just taking note how you feel. All right, feel it for just 3 more seconds. And then I want you 3 times in a row to inhale. Now think release. Inhale, think release. Now inhale, think release. Keep your eyes closed. And I want you just to not even think about this. Just the first image that comes to mind, just go with it. So right now, thinking about this contraction that you have and asking yourself, what represents this contraction, and seeing what symbol shows up. Now inhale, exhale, think release. Inhale, exhale, think release. Inhale, exhale, think release. And now thinking of the transformation. So if you were to totally rid this contraction, this feeling, and a transformation occurred, what is the symbol that shows up first in your mind? And just letting yourself see it. Noticing whatever color it is. Just take a good look and take note. And now if I were to ask your mind, what is a scent that represents this transformation? What scent comes to your mind? Now, don't judge the scent. Don't overthink it. Don't worry about it. Just the first thing, activate that scent in your head. Imagine it. And now one more time. So thinking about the transformation. What wild animal represents your transformation? Not a domestic pet, but a wild animal. Think of a wild animal that represents your transformation. Whatever comes to mind first, just think of it. Perfect. So now, keeping your eyes closed, what I want you to do is imagine you have a bow and arrow in your hands. And on every inhale, you pull the bow and arrow back. And on every exhale, you release the bow and arrow and you see that arrow fly out so far out into the ethers that it disappears. So just do it once. You can use your arms or just do it in your imagination, but take that bow and arrow, inhale it back, exhale, let it release. See that bow and arrow fly out. Perfect. So on your next inhale, I want you to take that bow and arrow, pull it back. And at the same time that you let go and think release, I want you to think of that symbol that represents transformation and watch that arrow go out into the ethers. And now again, take that bow and arrow, pull it back on the inhale. Think of the smell that you thought of. Exhale, think release, let the arrow go out into the ethers. Now taking that bow and arrow again, pulling back on the inhale, thinking about that wild animal. Exhale, release, let go of the bow and arrow, and watch it go all the way out into the ethers. Now one last time, inhale all the way back, think of the wild animal, the smell, and the symbol. Exhale, let go, let that bow and arrow fly all the way out into the ethers. And now just take note. So before we did this practice, you ranked yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 and just noticing where you're at now. Allowing space for that contraction to have left. And maybe just imagining like rose petals or diamond energy or something that makes you feel lit up or beautiful and like a goddess, and taking that energy and filling up the space where that energy was cleared. Beautiful. So there's 4 steps to activate your libido with love. The first step is to love yourself. So we just went through a practice, and you can take this practice and you can do it on your own, but this is about holding yourself in love. So when you're having, and when I talk about loving yourself too, it's really common for us to go to like the self-love workshop and write down everything we like about ourselves and just like focus on that, right? But there's also these parts of ourselves that we struggle with, and we need to love those parts of ourselves. I mean, think of a kid inside of a school, right? As adults, okay? And there's some kid who's acting up like he's a little shit and he doesn't listen, super crazy, mean to the other kids. As adults, we're all going to say, this kid needs love, like he's lacking attention, right? And it's because we know that love and attention are what is going to heal this kid. So loving yourself, loving the parts of yourself that you are rejecting or you struggle with, is this how those parts of you heal? So next time you're a bitch, right? And you're feeling guilty, or if you are hard on yourself about your libido or whatever it is, you just find that love and you hold yourself in it. And the more that you do that, the more you're going to heal this part of you. The second step to activating your libido with love is to love your boobs. Like I said, our boobs are our gateway to our orgasmic potential. Awakening sensation in your breast is totally activating your libido. Activating sensation in your breast also helps with vaginal lubrication. So it's about loving your boobs. And you can just like a good way to like learn to love any part of your body or yourself is like dropping your breath in your boobs, right? And just saying affirmations to them, like you are perfect, you are beautiful. Even if you don't believe it, after time you will. Plus, dropping breath into your boobs is going to create, so wherever you put your attention, the energy flows, right? And so if you put your energy in your breast, they're going to start feeling better. They're going to wake up. You're going to love them. Once you start loving how certain parts of your body feel, there's no space left to not like them. Same thing with your body. if you want to love your libido, or if you want to wake up your libido, we need to start loving our bodies, and we deserve to do that exactly how they are. Because let's face it, no one's having good sex if they're like worried about how their ass looks or worried about how their belly looks, right? When you love your body, you show up in pure freedom, and that is going to take your sexual energy and amp it up. And it's all about loving your yoni too, right? We've been taught to not love our yonis. In fact, we've been taught to like hate them. And, you know, like they smell bad, like buy this douche, which is like terrible for you or whatever it is. Okay. We've been taught to hate them. And this is like the most potent part of our entire body. It can create life. She can give us amazing orgasms. Like spend some time, breathe into her, look at her in the mirror, love her. So how do we do all of this? So it's about becoming aware of how women were taught to be hard on ourselves. And every time you, from now on, and you start thinking negative thoughts about yourself, you can ask yourself, like, is this even my belief? So it's like, if I'm, you know, if I walk by a mirror and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so fat. Is that even my belief? Like, or is that media and culture like portraying like a certain body image to me? And so now I've taken on that belief. Or let's say, you know, I'm having a hard time thinking of something. I'll come back to that. Okay. When your body is not doing what you want it to do, have compassion for yourself. Slow down and ask yourself, what is it that I need right now? So let's say you're having sex and you go completely numb, right? You don't have to keep going. You can slow down and you can stop for a second and just take a second and ask yourself, what is it that I need? And then the more you start doing that, intuitively, you're going to pick up on things. Maybe you just need to like make eye connection with your lover and slow down and go slow. And like, maybe you need to be touched right here. Maybe you need them to say something to you. It's all okay. But you need to have compassion for yourself, because so many, up until now, my guess is a lot of you have had bad experiences in bed, and we don't ask for what we want. And so it's finding compassion. Like, it's okay to be this way, and just holding yourself in it. And then going out there and doing nice things for yourself. So putting yourself first and letting yourself feel good, right? Again, as women, we're like conditioned to give, give, give. We're like mothers, we're wives, we're neighbors, we're constantly doing things. And it's okay to take the time and just really give to yourself. And the more that you make yourself feel better, the easier you are to love, right? It's way easier to love myself the better I feel. It's the better I feel, the better I'm doing. And so it's just like a great self-love hack to feel good, to love yourself, and it all works together. And then my next thing that I have for advice is to invest in yourself, because you are worth it. So here, I'll just get, oops. How did it jump that far? So I am going to just tell you, I don't know how it went so far ahead, about what, if you liked this work today and you got a lot out of this workshop and you would like to take it farther, I have created Activate Self-Love, Awaken Your Libido, a 4-week series. So this was the workshop. I have a series that takes you very deep. And this is what you get with this investment. So think of it as like a toolkit. It's a 4-week class. So let's just say hypothetically, you got it tonight. You would get the first module. First sexy teaching, I should say, delivered to you tonight. And then a week later, for 4 weeks, you keep getting more lessons. So the toolkit includes video lectures with self-love teachings. A lot of the teachings come from modern day science and ancient tradition. There's guided meditations and guided rituals in there for you, practices that will help you identify your blocks, tools to help you clear old beliefs and blocks that no longer serve you. And then there's tons of different modalities that I use to like clear all that stuff. And of course, pleasure practices to awaken sensation and bring more pleasure in your body. Every single module has pleasure practices. So the first sexy teaching is all about self-love to awaken your libido and better sex. So this is taking a deep dive in loving yourself, loving your personality, even loving the parts of you that struggle with feeling guilty. This module alone is really amazing because this is where you are taught to start feeling like you deserve pleasure, and that you are worthy of it. So the second sexy teaching is all about boob love. So this is boob love for better sex. So it's a bunch of tools and practices that will have you falling madly in love with your boobs, and in the process activate more sensation and turn on. Awakening your breasts is amping up your libido, and it brings you more orgasmic sensations in the bedroom. So that module is amazing. The third sexy teaching is all about loving your body, feeling more in sex. This module will give you the tools that you have to fall madly in love with your body to feel more. And it's like, what I was talking about before, like being able to show up and feeling wild and free in the bedroom. And then the fourth sexy teaching is all practices around your yoni, loving your yoni. I think that this module alone is worth the entire investment of this course because you will learn to unlock your potential of pleasure in your yoni so you can start experiencing sensation in your vagina and become more orgasmic, or orgasmic if you're not. So because all of you signed up for this class and showed up, you can make this investment for only $169 tonight until noon tomorrow. And yes, there is a payment plan where you can pay me in 2 different pieces. After tomorrow at noon, the price, I'm going to start marketing this to people who didn't sign up. And the price tomorrow afternoon goes into $222, which is still a really good deal because if you think about it, so each module, it's about healing how you feel about yourself, then your boobs, then your body, and then your yoni, right? And for $222, it comes out to $55 a module, where it's like, yeah, paying $55 to heal my relationship with my yoni and give me more orgasmic pleasure. Hell yeah. So if for some reason you don't make the deadline of noon tomorrow, this is still like an amazing investment for you. With that said, I'm going to open it up and just see if anyone has any questions. And if you do, you can type them in the chat now. And otherwise, this is the end of the workshop. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that it changed you. And yeah, I would love to know like what type of libido you feel like you have. And if you have any questions, whether it's about sex or about my program I'm offering, I am going to get off and I'm going to email you guys from Eventbrite the link. If it is something that you want to get, you can do that tonight and start as soon as tonight if you'd like. And I'll just stick on for another moment and see if there's any questions. Otherwise, feel free to drop off. And I love you guys all so much. Well, if you think that you are poor at sex, then I invite you to take this work deeper, because it's not that you're bad at sex. There's this lack of self-confidence, and this course is, I mean, it's like amazing for it. All right, how to increase the breast. Well, like I said, starters, just taking your breath, breathing in and out of your breast, just breath alone brings so much like attention and energy and blood flow, and just loving them. I'm getting my program too. I have tons of like different breast massage and techniques inside of it to awaken sensitivity in your breasts. So, all right, well, I am going to close out. Thank you so much. And I love all of you and wish you all an amazing night.